server internal architecture. Any questions, guys?
Yeah. Primarily in the last session, actually, you explained, like the logical things about the data file, but actually, you didn't explain about the transaction log. Remember you explained like the extent and then the pages and all. So the data file and the transaction log both same or it's different?
You mean to say pages?
Yeah, logical things for the data file and the transaction log. It is not related with this one. You are saying like that's all with the internal architecture. So that's why I asked you, because in the last class you explained for the data file, not for the transaction log.
The page is used for the a data file and transaction log. The mechanism is same.
Okay.
The page mechanism is same for transaction log and data files.
Okay.
But when you take the data file, when you take the backup, it will automatically dump pages to the all the data. It will automatically dump all the data from transaction log data file to the, I would say, from LDF file to .trn file. So after dumping, what it will become free page. Don't confuse, not in the memory. It will become a free page or free extent in LDF file. So in order to make it reorganize, that will be covered under, I'll be teaching you SQL through logical and physical architecture. This concept will come maybe in the next session. I'll be doing, shrinking of these LDF files. At the time of shrinking these LDF files, you have a reorganize or, simply compress the last extents from the LDF file. 3 options will be there. So one of the options is reorganize these 3 pages. This will do reorganization. The option will do reorganization and shrink the LDF file. That is how pages are organized and dumped to the TRN files and reorganizes in LDF files. In the same way, we do have shrinking for the MDF files also. But here, it will simply, when you do reorganize, it will not dump it anywhere. It will do the defragmentation within the data file, because we need the real data, right? So the data will be defragmented in MDF files when you do the shrinking in MDF files. The pages will be defragmented. This is the difference between MDF and LDF file pages.
Okay. And remember one more thing, for the extent I was reading, actually there are 2 kind of extent, or the uniform and the mixed something.
Extent management?
Yeah, actually I did read somewhere like the uniform extent and the mixed extent. If the table will expand beyond 8 pages, then it will, the next page will be created on the uniform extent.
No, actually, as I told, you mean to say 8 pages?
Yeah.
8 pages is the one extent.
Yeah.
8 pages is one extent.
Yeah.
And if it is reaching, if your data is going beyond that, it will look for another page.
Yes. Yeah.
Another extent actually.
Yeah. So I read somewhere, one extent can have, like, if the table size is small, then one extent can have pages for 8 different tables. But if the page size will grow for a particular table after 8 pages, then all the new pages will be created into uniform extent for that table.
Only for the table.
Yeah, okay, only for the table, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll get back to you on the extent management actually.
Yeah, okay.
Ajay, that is a good question, and I'll look into it and I'll get back to you in the next session.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Pawan. Yeah, thank you, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Satish, you have any questions?
Yes, Pawan. When you say SQL OS, right?
Yes.
I just want to understand when you do it, when you go to Task Manager and see number of processes running, we can see only one exe running, that is SQL Server.exe. Okay.
Yes.
And these are API calls or APIs. You can say a threads for that particular
Yes.
process, right?
Yes.
Okay. When I say threads, so how the scheduling and memory allocation, resource allocation done by the SQL iOS? What I meant to say is, since these are threads of SQL Server.exe process, so whenever there is a need of resource, like a memory segment or a CPU requirement for a particular query, so a database engine will send through an API, send a command to the SQL OS to do some job, right?
Okay.
So that job, to complete that job, it requires some resource. When I say normal process allocated a set of memories allocated to the process, a set of and a scheduling algorithm will be there to schedule a job, and scheduler works and picks up the job and completes the job and waits in the queue and checks the queue for any other jobs to be done. So is that the same concept applies to this SQL iOS also?
That is correct actually. It will get back to the scheduler. The thread will get back again to the scheduler. Mm-hmm. Actually, I wanted to show you, that that SQL OS in depth, but I thought it is confusing part. Okay. Somehow I made a picture actually. Okay. I thought of showing it, but I thought it's going very deep into the concept.
Because at the end, we need to allocate resource to that process. So.
That is correct, but you mean to say the SQL OS will be using the whatever buffer you are specifying instance memory, that it will be using the same.
Correct.
Not the OS level.
Correct. So when you say buffer memory, suppose a buffer manager which is there to take care of the buffer memory. So whenever you start an SQL server, so how the memory is allocated to the buffer? I mean, there are a number of components inside. Buffer memory is there.
Can I tell you, one thing, frankly? The whatever memory you are allocating in SQL Server, there is a known. I know it's a undocumented thing. You'll face this in real time soon if you are working with the SQL Server. The whatever memory you allocated for the SQL Server is entirely used by the buffer pool only.
Okay.
Not the other things.
Okay.
Because throughout the years I am seeing, OS guys used to say your SQL Server is consuming your SQL Server I used to get alert SQL Server is consuming some 6 GB or 7 GB of memory. And my junior DBs go to my instance and used to check, sir, I got only, we allocated only 3 GB, but it's taking 4 GB.
Okay.
And if you say same thing to client will ask, you did some mistake and the configuration is something you did wrong. But undocumented and hidden thing in SQL Server is whatever instance memory you are allocating is only for this buffer pool.
Okay. That means.
Which means it is using all those components are using again OS level memory only.
Okay. So in that case, if I do a restart of my SQL Services.exe, so doing the recovery operation or doing rollbacking or roll forward, So those components will also use buffer memory only.
Yeah, they will first try to use buffer memory.
Okay.
And first priority should be given to the buffer pool components.
Mm-hmm.
If these buffer pool components are using entire buffer pool, then these all components going to use all OS memory.
Okay.
The first priority should be for the buffer pool. If your buffer pool is reaching maximum, and then it will not allow other components to use it in SQL Server memory.
Okay.
So obviously, at that time, you have no other go. You have to use the OS level memory.
Any parameter that controls this behavior?
Only instance memory. I did not find throughout the years. I did not find any parameter to set to use all these things in buffer pool. But it is not recommended by the even Microsoft. When we raised so many times SRs tickets with the Microsoft, what they get back to us we try to give some OS level also. You try to give some more extra memory, like a buffer, buffer memory for, if you're reaching the buffer pool beyond the buffer pool memory, it will try to use that one. That is the solution they gave it to us. But this is a hidden thing, and they will not reveal to anyone.
So any table or views to query the usage of buffer pool?
Yes, we do have some dictionary management use, and we can even see. I'll share with you at the end. I'll put it in one notepad. Okay. And I'll share with you. Even you can see how many dirty pages are there for database also.
Okay. Okay. So second question is regarding aging of the pages, dirty buffers or dirty pages. So you said it will wait for it will set a counter of 10,000 seconds, and every once it reaches 0, it ages out. Is that an algorithm?
Yes, that is algorithm. So that is correct.
Okay. Okay. That
we cannot control that one. We cannot control that one, but you can do a flushing of it. We do have a manual flushing option.
Okay.
I'll be putting in a SQL, all these SQLs in one notepad, and before tomorrow's class, I'll send it back to you with all these SQLs.
So
how you flush?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that algorithm applies to like in Oracle? We do cache pinning of some buffers for very read-only operations. So suppose is there any concept of read-only pages which are retrieved to the buffer and is maintained in the cache?
No, I did not see these read-only things in the SQL Server, but I'll check it out and get back to you. But only thing is, if you flush this, if you use the flush command, it will only flushes the free pages what are all there in the buffer pool, data cache. It will flush all of them.
Okay, so coming to the buffer once again. We have in Oracle DB file sequence scatter read for full table scan, right? So in that case, in Oracle terms we say it's going to do a multi-block read and read it to the SGA. Okay. So in this case, suppose there's a table scan or any huge scans happening on the table which requires a lot of pages. So how the database resource manager, buffer manager will read those pages? Is going to read multiple pages or single page wise?
Reading the page. Okay, can you repeat your question, please?
Suppose, for example, full table scan. So whenever there's a full table scan, what will happen? My database will do a DB file scatter read, and it's going to read multiple blocks. And then read all the blocks to my buffer. Similarly, in SQL Server, if there's a full table scan, and it needs a lot of pages.
Okay, I got your question.
So how the pages will be read to the memory?
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that. Can you please type it in chat and ping me your questions actually?
Okay.
I'll try to save in my text notepad and I'll try to answer them.
Sure, I'll send it across.
Yeah, please. Please put it in the chat. I think 2 questions total you asked, right? One is the reading of these pages in the time of table scan, and the other thing is the other question actually I did not answer.
The other one is what do you want?
I think other one I answered, right? The using the buffer pool.
Sorry, if anyone
Okay,
remembers,
I'll go to the recording and I'll try to get it that one. And first, this one, please put it in the chat. Guys, if you have any questions which I did not answer, please put it in the chat. I'll get back to you. Which I did not answer, please put it in the chat.
Okay, sure. I'll send.
Yeah, please.
Thank you.
Yeah, you were talking about the extent management. I got it. Extent management. You were talking about you asked for the extent management and this pages reading. Two questions actually. Please put it in the chat actually.
And one more thing, Pawan.
Yeah.
And this algorithm of flushing the pages will that apply to index blocks also? I mean to say index pages also.
Yes, it applies to everything.
It's applied to
it's applicable to the all pages.
All the pages. Okay.
Yeah, it applicable to all the pages. That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And please put it in the chat. Ajay asked extent management, and then Satish asked about the reading the pages. Yeah, thank you. Okay, this is how SQL Server internal architecture spread in the SQL Server, and all that you see is only SQL Server .exe in our SQL Server mission. You see only SQL Server.exe. You cannot see anything. Nothing is visible to you. And also, I'll get back to the queries how to see dirty pages per database basis and how to flush these three pages. Just try to log into my mission to show the services. Next slide. So the next slide is SQL Server 2012 services. These two types. One is instance specific, other one is machine specific, which means server specific. As I told earlier, in SQL Server, you can install multiple instances, up to 50, I think. I'm not wrong. 50 instances you can install. Services will be these analysis, as I told you, in the first class, analysis services, reporting services, and our database engine, and SQL Server agent, which is a scheduler in our SQL Server, used for scheduling the jobs, and the reporting services for the forms and report purpose, and analysis services are for overlap purpose, as I told on the first class. These four services are instance specific. You install an instance means in our Oracle terms database. So I'm not calling it as database here. No more Oracle terms. Okay. I think you're clear with the architecture on the day, entire physical architecture I told, instance, databases, and all these things. Okay. This instance specific services, if you install one instance, there will be a database engine. If you install only database engine and SQL Server agent, for instance, you'll see these two services. While installing, if you select analysis services and reporting services also, you get another two, reporting and analysis. And if you want to go for another instance, these mission specific instances will be remain same. This 5, 6, 7. 5, 6, 7 full text service, browser service, and integration services. These remain intact, but again, if you install another instance, again, one more analysis service will come, and reporting service will come, and database engine will come, and again, SQL Server agent will come. But these three services will be intact in the machine. They'll deal with all these things. Okay, these mission-specific services, full text service. What is a full text service means? Suppose the layman words. Okay, if you run a SQL query, the full text, because there are a lot of documents. Microsoft, if you save documents in your database, n number of documents in your database, and you want to get a text out of n documents. At that time, you use full text message in your query, and using full text service, the query will get back to you. The full query will be resolved using the full text service. Without full text service, it is not possible to be use full text. It will be mainly used by the developers to get the full text. That is a full text service. And browser service deals with the remote instances. You want to connect the remote instance to UDP protocol, it will go to the browser service should be enabled. This for the remote connectivity. On integration service, as I told on the earlier, integration services will be used for the data warehousing, the kind of things, the database warehousing kind of things, if you're, and also in database engine also, we want to create any maintenance plan. Some integration services components are required internally to create in database engine also, the database engine maintenance plans. These integration services. And transforming the data across across the databases, also these integration services are required. So SQL Server services are mainly analysis, instance specific and machine specific, analysis, reporting, database engine, and we are mainly dealing with these two, database engine and SQL Server agent. Where we see this in the mission, we install SQL Server database, SQL Server. You see SQL Server services here. I have SQL Server integration service. I stopped currently. Full text I have. SQL Server, MS SQL Server, and agent. I'm starting these. So these two services we are going to deal now in SQL Server. Those are the services, main services used in SQL Server instance and memory. Any questions on this?
Yeah. Yeah, all okay.
Okay. Okay, when it comes to the physical architecture, I'm going to talk about database files and transaction logs. And as I told on the day, these database files are two types. It's here primary and secondary. We can add up to 32,067 data files in your single database. And single MDF file can grow up to 16 terabytes. But I never seen that 16 terabytes. Maximum I have seen 64 GB, something like that, 60 on single data file. And some clients used to want to put it only 32 GB or not more than 30 GB like that, and they'll create another data file with the NDF extension. So first primary data file, as I told on the day, primary data file will be containing all information about database, that particular database. These data files are specific to the each database. You cannot use multiple same data file for multiple databases. Same like our Oracle. Each database specific transaction log and data files. So primary data file contains the startup information of the database and which point your other data files are there, and user data, and everything related to the every data which you are storing it will be there in the primary data file. And if it is exceeding, and if you feel that you want to create another data file, you can add another data file. The second data file which you are going to add, secondary data file. It is simply having the data, nothing other than that. Not like all information about the database and all. Okay. Let me show you in this one. This is my database already created. These are the system databases. I'll be talking about these in the next slide. These are the databases which I have, system databases, and this is the user database I created. And in this, you go to properties. In the properties, you see file groups and files. I'll talk about file groups in the same slide now after these files. You can see the test is already having a file group, primary, and the path of, and every data file will be having a logical name and also a physical name. The physical name will be here, the path, and if I want to another one, add another one, add. And it will be adding to the primary. Don't confuse with the primary data file and primary file group. I'll let you know what is primary file group. Okay. And then I'll be selecting file type rows data. If it is rows data, which means data file. If it is log, which means it is a transaction log data file. Test 2 will be sitting in same path. It will automatically come test2.mdf. Okay. You can use the MDF extension, but it is not recommended. It's always better to use NDF. It will automatically use NDF here. You see here. So default is NDF. This is how you add second data file. So we have primary data file and secondary data file. And as I told, transaction log file holds the, before writing, before doing any modification, it will write it to that image will be written to the transaction log files. And these transaction log files will not be having, and you can add another transaction log file, but there will not be any groups, any file groups for these transaction log files. And I'll let you know in the file group section what is the primary and user defined file groups and what is the purpose of this. file groups is primary and user defined as two types actually. Third one I created it actually. I'll let you know what is this default. And primary and user defined. Whenever you create a first data file, it will automatically become a primary data file, and it will be a primary file group. Primary data file and also primary data file. Whenever you create a database, first data file will be primary data file and it will comes under primary data file. Okay, and if you want add another data file, you can add in primary data file with NDF extension. Primary data file will be NDF. Okay, with NDF you can add secondary data file, and you can create user defined file group, and then what it will be having, all secondary. Why? Any reason, guys? In one database, I have a primary file group and primary data file and secondary data file, and I can create another file group, which means I can create another data file and make it as, put them in another file group. Why these two are secondary? Anyone can answer this one? Why these two are secondary?
First have user data and the other one is having system data.
Yeah, in one data file there will be only one primary data file. It is already using by the primary file group. So whatever you are adding will be secondary and they will be sitting in user defined file groups, or else you can add them here itself. Okay, we'll be having a question here. Why do I need to create another file group? In SQL Server, you have an option of creating your object in particular file group. While creating an object, date table or anything, at the end, if you specify the file group and file group, it will sit in that file group. So if you feel that your date table, you are having more reads and more IO, put it in separate disk, those data files, and create your table in that file group. That is the main advantage for these file groups. So, what is the default? By default, whatever data, if you are not specifying any file group, it create a table, insert the data, it will try to insert first in this primary file group. This is a default. If we want to make, and it will equally spread into these secondary data files also. If we want to make this particular file group as default, we want your data first seated in this file group. So you make it as default. I'll show you how to make it. I'm adding another data file with new file group. So let me make it Pavan, and I'm making it as default. And Pavan is the logical name. Pavan is a logical name I'm putting here, and will be taking automatically. I'm okay. So I have one here in the file group section I'm seeing, which is a default, and this is a primary. I've been saying this primary file group is having the information of entire tape database. Okay, let me justify that. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to detach this database from the SQL Server. It is always recommended to take a backup. So I'm taking a backup of this one full. I'm just trying to find out the paths of these files, especially this primary file test.mdf. Let me locate that file. SQL Server data. This is the test.mdf. Okay. And now I'll be detaching this one. If it is having, any connections to the database while detaching, it will show it here. Okay. Refresh. I don't see any database here. Now I'm trying to attach one second. Attach test.mdf. So as per my, what I told, this test.mdf is a primary file. It should have all information of other, entire database and other data files. So I'm just locating while attaching this test.mdf file. Let us see what will happen. See, it is pointing all these files. I just let SQL Server know about my MDF file, which is a primary data file, test.mdf, and this test.mdf is having all information. This information of our database. I'm just saying okay. I got my database back. So it is justified, right? Primary data file is having all data of our database. Sorry, our database and all other secondary files information it is having. So we have database, under that we have file groups and data files and MDF, NDF and primary file group and user defined file group. I can make it as a user defined file group as a default or primary file group as a default. Yeah, Satish, go ahead please. Please put it in the chat, Satish. Go ahead. This is how it goes. So here in the to-do list created a database with different, I can create a database files in different locations and I change default group. I created user defined file group and I'll show you the creating the file group in the logical, creating a file table in a funpetter file group. I can show you. One second, guys. Actually, as I told in the logical and physical names, you can interact with the logical and physical both names. If you want to shrink one data file, if you want to, while restoring, you should use only MDF files. That is must MDF files. But while shrinking, you can use you can use the logical names. But at the time of restore, you need to use the MDF files. And we justified how this primary data file is having the this primary data file is having the contents of all other data files. So data files, transaction logs, transaction log, you cannot create any group for the transaction logs, but you can add another transaction log. And file groups, you have primary and user defined file groups, and you can store your table, your object in your particular file group, your table. This is how your data files and file groups are spread in SQL Server.